Last winter, I spent time exploring every hut in the Summit Hut system. Each hut offers a different slice of Colorado backcountry skiing, from the varied approaches to the unique amenities to the terrain surrounding each hut. This video brings all of those trips together into one full look at the entire hut system. So sit back and enjoy the ride as we tour some of the best huts Colorado has to offer. Ten minutes up the road from the town of Breckenridge is where this project begins. Francy's cabin is one of the more accessible huts in the system, as it's a roughly 1 hour hike up the road, which is very manageable even with a heavy pack. It's a short enough hike in where we did it after work on a Friday. Even though it was early February, the warm temps and lack of snow made it look like spring. It hadn't snowed the 2 weeks prior to our trip, and with only a trace amount of snow in the forecast for the weekend, we set our expectations low for the snow quality. Being chased by the fading sunlight gave us some extra motivation to get there before dark. Once we got to the hut, we unpacked, dried out the boots, cooked some dinner, and made some new friends around the fire. We heard the storm roll in overnight, but it wasn't until we stepped outside in the morning that we realized just how much snow had actually fallen. For once, the forecast was wrong in our favor. With fresh coffee in hand and a warm hut to shelter in, we kicked back and watched the snow continue to pile up. But with conditions looking too good to resist, we knew we had to get out there and see what kind of turns we could find. 15 snowy minutes later, we were at the top of our first run, ready for a day full of skiing. The snow was dust on crust in some areas, but it was hard to complain about a surprise powder day. One moment, the sun would break through the clouds, and the next, snowflakes were filling the air again. With each run, the conditions only got better, and yet we barely scratched the surface of the terrain around the hut. After a full day of skiing, there's nothing better than unwinding in a sauna, a true backcountry luxury. We fired it up, let the warmth sink in, and started dreaming about the trips ahead, grateful for the adventures still to come. It always feels weird to start a backcountry hut trip at a busy ski resort, but I'm not complaining about using Copper's lifts to save some energy. And if you book Janet's cabin, the lifts are free, which is a pretty great deal. The hike felt longer than it actually was, but knowing there was 30 inches of new snow on the ground from the previous week, we hit our stride and made our way up the valley towards the hut. The slow, methodical steps helping us progress up the skin track and distract us from our heavy packs. The hut is a welcome relief after the 4-mile hike in. We unpacked our gear, made a quick dinner, and decided to go out for a night lap to test the snow. Normally, we'd take our time settling into the hut, but with perfect snow and no wind, we couldn't resist squeezing in a night lap.
Do it.
After the lap, the only logical thing to do was fire up the sauna to start unwinding. Nothing beats the exhaustion of a full day in the mountains, and sleep came easy that night. Hut trips are an incredible way to experience the Colorado backcountry. You can easily reserve a summit hut, like Janet's, through the new Summit Huts Association website. You can choose to book the whole cabin or just the number of beds you need for your group. By becoming a member of the Summit Huts Association, you'll get exclusive early booking access to book a trip on your preferred dates. Explore these stunning cabins and begin creating your own unforgettable stories today at summithuts.org. Now, let's get back to the adventure. Dragging yourself out of a warm sleeping bag before sunrise isn't easy, especially after a long day hiking into the hut. But when the mountains light up an orange and pink alpenglow, it makes the early alarm worth it. With a fresh cup of coffee in hand and a quick breakfast, we discussed the avalanche conditions in the weather forecast and made a plan for the day. With blue skies and mild temps, the possibilities seem endless. The stoke was high after our first run, and Ryan even caught up with us, having hiked into the hut that morning. The conditions were all time, and we threw the skins on and marched back up the ridge for more. Everything was lining up in our favor, and ignoring our tired legs seemed like the only limiting factor.
It's been a long time coming. Well, I got news for you. I'm in love with you, baby. Oh, pull me close to you. It was love. I'll keep love. It was love. I'll keep love. If you still want me to, I'll share my quarters with you. Yes, I'll do. It's been a long time coming. Well, I got news for you. I'm in love with you, baby. I wanna make love to you.
Turns out there's spots with thin cover, boys. Trusted it too much.
I'm glad you didn't get hurt there. That came out of nowhere.
Dude.
Yeah, you alright?
Yeah, I'm fine. That was the biggest, most like sudden shark I think
Yeah.
I've ever hit without
That was
at all
wild.
expecting.
These are the days you don't want to ever end. The snow was amazing, the hut vibes were high, and sharing that with your close friends can't be beaten in my opinion. These are the trips we live for.
Times and places are all in who you share them with. And it's life, and the point is enjoying who you share it with. Joy is who you share it with. And the weeks, weekends are keeping close who you spend.
I was like, Peter, you make it look so peaceful, so enjoyable. It's just like, that could be someone's like meditation right there.
It is my meditation.
It looks so good.
Joy is who you share it with. Who you share it with. Who you share it with. Yeah, now
Parker and Kazi.
it's a
3,
moment.
2, 1.
And a home is who you share it with. I believe what the point is enjoying who you share it with. Joy is who you share it with. Who you share it with. Who you share it with.
Tire legs and all, we set our alarms for 4 a.m. to see if we could get a sunrise line in on our final day at the hut. We awoke to clear skies, but as soon as we set out from the hut, the wind and clouds rolled in, dashing our hopes of an epic sunrise. We thought we'd still give it a shot and summited the ridge line from the day before and waited for the right window. The skies started lighting up around us, and we waited around in the cold for the perfect conditions. The clouds began to thin out, and we had hope for the first time that our gamble would pay off. We got ready quickly and waited for the alpenglow to reach us, and I think it paid off, but you be the judge. A few minutes outside of Breckenridge is where the hike into Sister's cabin begins. The remains of the Sally Barber mine mark the start of the climb towards the hut, bringing you up the well-marked trails through the lush forest. Even on a stormy day, you can tell how incredible the area is.
I'm with you always. You've had me all along. We've
We unpacked our gear and fired up the sauna to dry off and warm back up. Sitting at nearly 11,500 feet, this is the newest cabin in the hut system, and it's a beauty. We made some dinner, met new friends, and even grabbed a beer from the keg someone had brought in that day. There's nothing like a slow morning at a hut with fresh snow that fell overnight. There's no need to wake up early unless that's your thing, and no traffic to battle since you're already on the mountain. We made some breakfast, drank our coffee, and even warmed up our boots, which we don't even do back home. We took our time getting out the door, but the pull of untouched snow was strong, and so we set ourselves out to explore. With it being midwinter, we were conservative in our terrain choices, but we saw some larger lines on Mount Baldy that we earmarked for our trip back here in the spring. Spring in Colorado means the snowpack starts to stabilize and we are able to safely step into bigger terrain. Taking an avalanche education course from BVMA this winter helped us refine our skills in the backcountry and gave us a few more tools to evaluate the snow and move as safely as possible when in avalanche terrain.
Here, these two bodies.
Classes like these are extremely helpful to take every other season or so. to build upon your skills and grow as a responsible backcountry traveler. If you would like to take a class with BVMA, check out the discount codes in the description below to save some money. Now, let's get back to the adventure where we put some of these skills to the test. 1 month later, we find ourselves back at the hut. Timing is everything in the spring, and that typically means setting an early alarm to beat the warming snowpack throughout the day. Sometimes these early mornings are tough to drag yourself out of bed to climb a mountain that will likely ski in subpar snow. But the feeling you get when you're standing on top of a ridgeline, soaking in the view, and getting ready to ride a new line is unmatched in my opinion. It's often a lot of effort, but spring skiing just makes you feel good.
You drop it. Hey, I'm in a pretty good spot. It was a little punchy. I think the more skiers left you can be, the better. All right, I'm dropping. I was fighting for my life on the top.
It's hard to explain the satisfaction of skiing a big line safely, but it's an awesome experience, and of course we saw a few more lines to add to our list in the future. We had a decent climb back to the hut, but one failed crampon later and we were back to rest for the afternoon. Wanting to squeeze the last bit of juice out of the day, we decided to hike back to the ridge for sunset and to watch the full moon rise over the mountains. It's moments like these that make these trips worth it. The exhaustion of a full value day in the mountains, combined with the beautiful views, is not a combination I have often back in the city, and is something I am always chasing after for more. Wanting to change up how we access the last two huts, we decided to rent e-bikes to help us get up the pass, which was originally built for a railroad back in the day. It's a very gradual 6-mile approach to get to the cabins, and we thought, why walk when we could ride? Breckenridge had experienced the first warm spell of the spring, which had caused the snow to start melting rapidly and did not allow for a refreeze overnight. Not ideal conditions for biking on top of snow. One moment you'd be cruising along, and the next would end up like this. Or this. Or even this. The heavy backpacks made it very difficult at times to stand back up on the snow, only to sink in above the knee once you got back up. What seemed like a brilliant idea to start turned into a slogfest, where we were falling into the snow more than we were riding on top of it. After making it 2 miles, we talked it over and decided to pull the plug on our original plan, opting for a more traditional approach the next day. While the approach is a long one to get to these cabins, it felt good to be off the bikes and making steady progress up the road. The views are incredible and take your mind off the heavy packs. At the top of the pass, you get your first glimpse of the cabins. The remoteness of this area is a big reason why people choose these huts for a trip. Finding rideable terrain on this wind-scoured pass can be a bit challenging, but we saw a few fellow travelers getting some turns in above us and watched them descend. This got us excited to explore, so we dropped off the non-essentials and went in search for a place to ski as well.
I find myself thinking of high school, dreaming of a life I'd find. No one really wanted what I had in mind, and God, am I glad I'm not signed. The only kids sleeping in parking lots, straight out of CNA. Looking for a manager in LA, hoping that I'd find a career. I find myself alone in the mountains.
The snow was a bit tricky, but it felt good to be gliding downhill for a change. And did I mention the views were pretty good?
I find myself alone in the mountains, and it goes.
We were staying with a motivated crew, and it was fun to see each group trying to find the best snow to ski on top of the pass.
mountains. I'm grateful for my life today. It's just me and my dog most of the time. I wouldn't have it any other way. And it goes.
With the storm building, we made the most with what we had and skied all the way back to the cabins. These two cabins were built in the 1800s, but were surprisingly spacious and comfortable. There's so much history here, and it was fun reading about how the Pacific Railroad was responsible for transforming this area. Ken's cabin is the older structure of the two and was originally known as the wagon cabin, as it was built before the railroad and was accessed by horse-drawn wagons. If you're looking for creature comforts, it doesn't have many, but you can feel the rich history it possesses here, and it is a unique place to stay, to say the least. Back in Section House, we cooked our dinner, settled in for the night, and wished we had another day here to explore. You are spoiled with great views here, but we were particularly drawn to the south this morning as the South Park Valley was lit up in the morning sun.
Feel it now every time I leave. It hits me hard and it cuts me deep. I'm 1,000 miles from happiness. 1,000 miles from you.
We took our time making breakfast and packing our things before setting out on the long trek back to Breckenridge.
It's a far reach from you to me. I feel the time and the space between. It's 1,000 miles of loneliness. 1,000 miles from you.
Looking back on this project, I can't help but feel incredibly lucky to live in this place. It affords me the opportunity to be in the mountains regularly, and it feels good for the soul. And while I do find energy from being out in nature, it truly is the people I get to be with that makes these trips so special.
It leads to you. It leads to you.
It's the heavy packs on the skin track, the late night saunas, the coffee at sunrise, the distraction-free environment that is increasingly hard to find. All of these things make a hut trip so memorable.
1,000 miles from you.
I think it is a good thing to come back from these trips exhausted, knowing you have maximized your time out there. Each hut has so much to explore around it, and we try to be outside each day for as long as possible. we were constantly looking for the best possible snow we could ski, or the most aesthetic line we could find.
Along my path leads to you. It leads to you.
My unsolicited advice? Explore a little further than you have been before. Wake up earlier than you want to see the sunrise. Or stay up late hanging around the fire with old friends or new ones. Those are the times you'll truly remember in the future. So book that hut trip you've been thinking about taking. Invite as many friends as you can, and make your own memories in these wild places that will last a lifetime.
Heard it said when the road is long, all the miles make the heart grow fond. There's 1,000 miles